That was not the start we were looking for. Goodness gracious, Kyle. Welcome to the Wrap Up Live. This is the official Raptors Republic post-game live show, guys. We did not want to come to you bearing bad news, bearing bad gifts, but we are ready to give you a very bad gift tonight. Unfortunately, your Raptors were defeated in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference playoffs to the Philadelphia 76ers in Philadelphia, 131 to 111. Really quick, Kyle. This game from the start did not look like a game that the Raptors had control of. Philadelphia started very hot. A little bit of back and forth in the first few minutes, but Philadelphia started very hot. And what worried me the most, I think, about this game, oh my goodness, I'm still kind of just swallowing it and just still basking in all of its in all of the negativity that's about to come. What worried me most about the game, Kyle, is how it started. And it wasn't necessarily Joel Embiid putting 20 on the Raptors in the first quarter. It wasn't Tobias Harris, giving the Raptors 20 mid-range jump shots and putting them to sleep like that. The entire Philadelphia team was giving the Raptors baskets, maybe save for James Harden. Overall in this game, it's tough. Normally we go immediately to the point in the game that sticks with you guys the most, which is usually the last few minutes, but it just looked like a scrimmage run that last few minutes. Kyle, what'd you think about the Raptors in that game? Just terrible outing, a terrible injury that took place. It was all bad for Toronto.
Yeah, honestly, nothing good. Like, again, it's game one. We're not going to freak out because it's game one. And at the end of the day, like the Sixers had everything they needed to go right. It went right. Maxey exploded in an incredible way, 14 for 21 from the field, 5 of 8 from 3. And it just seemed like they were hitting almost every shot. I mean, as a team, the Sixers shot like 50% from 3. It's just the type of stuff that happens. Whatever. It's the first game of the series. I don't want to overreact, but if we want to get into there are a couple things that are really scary as a Raptors fan. The first of which being obviously the injuries. Barnes. I'm not obviously not a doctor. If I was a doctor, I wouldn't be on here. I think he'll be okay. Like, it's an ankle thing. It's the playoffs. He'll tie the shoes up nice and tight. I mean, we won't know until tomorrow or even the next day anyway. In fact, I would be surprised if they even fully disclose the extent of the injury. I think in a playoff series like this, you probably don't want to indicate. But that's a big loss. Maybe this is too bold to say, but I kind of thought Scotty was their best player tonight until he went down, or maybe second best to Siakam. Like OG had a good night too, but Scotty was 15 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists. He was playmaking like crazy, and that was in 32 minutes.
He went to the line 9 times.
He was hitting the line like it was the breakout performance that we were all waiting for, and it was unfortunately cut a little short, although it probably wouldn't have made a difference anyway. And the other part that's concerning is, as we bring Zarar into the stream whenever he's ready, the other part that's concerning is that Maxey exploding like this. Yeah, a lot of it was just good luck. He was hitting his shots, but it looked sustainable. From what I saw of Maxey tonight, there's nothing that tells me like he can't do that every game. And the Sixers, look, when Embiid and Harden play together, they're like plus 1 million per 100 possessions. I think they're like plus 14 points per 100 possessions, which is wild. It's like one of the best two-man numbers in the entire NBA. So the goal is to, basically win those minutes when one of them sits. They're all right when when Harden sits and Joel plays. They're not great when Joel sits and Harden plays, but there were moments tonight, especially in that third quarter, where they were both sitting and Maxey just took over. He had 19-point third quarter. If they can sustain that, if they can have pair Harden and Embiid's minutes for an entire series, this might not be close.
Really quick, before Zarar gives his take on what just happened, the disaster class that took place in Philadelphia, I totally forgot to introduce us, Kyle. And that usually happens when I'm willowing away in depression after a Raptors loss. This is Kyle Brickman from Raptors Republic with us, obviously, who was just speaking. I'm Sahal, Abdi, and then we have Zarar, a.k.a. You guys know it's the Podfather. He's here. And then we also have Chris Howson-Jan in the background, our producer. Also, guys, we usually save this till the end of the show, but we would like to kindly ask you guys to like, comment, continuously comment, and subscribe to the Raptors Republic channel. We have tons of content, especially during the playoffs. You guys are going to see something every day, if not multiple things a day. So subscribe and enjoy. Zarar, what did you think about the game?
Man, what do I start, man? Like
Yeah,
it's like if you look at if somebody asked me, like, I think it was Lewis who asked me, like, how do you feel about this series? And I was like, I think I just went from, like, before the game started, from Raps in 5 to Philly in 7, because all my fears kind of materialized in this one game, because the Raptors, who are known to force turnovers and get their points off there, they got 2 turnovers. That, like, their main source of offense, not main, or one of their primary means of offense, is getting on the break. So none of that really happened. And there, instead, it's Philly who got on the break, and it's the Raptors who were so slow in transition. And in terms of Nick Nurse always having an answer for Embiid, not really, not today at least, because Embiid establishing early post position deep, I know, with still like 18 seconds on the clock, and Embiid's already got a chew on his back 5 feet from the rim.
yeah.
That's not a good starting point for any Raptors possession. And then outside shooting, the Raptors were okay from 3, but really in that first half, when they really needed to hit their threes, Gary Trent Jr., who is I like the guy overall, but really was quite horrible. Like, he was brutal. I mean, he's a dead eye shooter who is supposed to knock down all his shots. Having said all that, this is pretty much a young team, and I think they're going through some of the playoff learning that every young team has to go through. But last thing, Siakam, I thought to start off the game he was quite poor defensively. I thought at least 2 or 3 Philly threes were because of miscommunication, where he overhelped on the ball on the ball handler and left his man in the corner open. I think Philly got at least 2 or 3 threes in that run where they built up that 14, 15, 16-point lead. And really, after the Raptors were playing catch up forever, and they never really seemed to play catch up because their defense was non-existent.
It's funny because we recorded the preview show, and I feel like everything that we assumed would be an advantage turned into essentially becoming an advantage for Philadelphia. You mentioned the turnovers. Philadelphia killed Toronto on the offensive glass early in the game. You mentioned how Embiid was, his positioning specifically. I wrote down, and I tend to write down game notes, especially for games like this. I wrote down, since Khem Birch left the game in the second quarter. And by the way, guys, Khem Birch, I mentioned before, he's one of the guys you probably want on Embiid to start, because Khem Birch is he has a very strong core. The guy is built. Like, he can hold Embiid for those 2 seconds before you send a double team. Unfortunately, Precious Achiuwa cannot. And as soon as Khem Birch left the game mid-second quarter, Precious was on Embiid, and Embiid scored 6 straight points, one of them being an and one. So it was difficult. I mean, the Sixers played, their best basketball in months. And I'm not just saying this from what I've seen. I'm saying this from what I've seen Philadelphia beat writers say as well, all over Twitter. They played some great basketball. Can you count on Tyrese Maxey to have another game like this? Maybe not, but maybe it also, you got to give him some credit in the sense that Tyrese Maxey is a guy I mentioned during our preview show where I said, everyone's talking about Embiid and how to stop him, and everybody's talking about James Harden. No one's talking about Tyrese Maxey. Tobias Harris is a guy that Kyle's going to laugh, but we got a little slander on Tobias Harris, right, during the preview show. But in this specific game, it seemed like everything was clicking. And weirdly enough, Zarar, everyone believed that this would be a grinded out series, 90 to 86, 100 to 92 type series. And this was a very, very offensive game from both teams. The Raptors didn't even shoot poorly. They shot 48.8% from the field, 40% from 3. They got to the line quite a bunch, 23 free throw attempts, even though, Philly, 34 free throw attempts is tough to overcome regardless. But Tyrese Maxey looked absolutely unstoppable. He was hitting shots I've never seen Tyrese Maxey hit before. But even beyond that, I was really worried because Joel Embiid had a nice game. Other guys stepped up. Thybulle came in. As soon as he came in the second quarter, he hit a 3. And it's like, that's the one guy Toronto needs to shoot open threes. That's the one guy you want to shoot open threes. It just felt like nothing was going right for Toronto early on.
Can I? I'm so sick of every single announcer and US based mentioning every 10 seconds how Thybulle can't play the 2 games in Toronto. Like, it's like a constant theme. Like, every 15 minutes, That stat somehow comes up as if that guy is some sort of a world beater that will make a giant difference in this series. He won't. I don't get it. Anyways, just venting my frustration with it. By the way, Fred, what do you guys think of Fred? Not great leadership, picking up 2 early fouls. That was not smart.
Yeah. It was tough. I didn't necessarily think it was his fault. I mean, we could talk about the refs tonight. It's not what's even worth saying. I didn't think it was super fair, but whatever. Again, like, what do you want us to say? You want us to do an hour on the refs, guys? Like, we're not going to do it. But if you get nothing to say, the reffing wasn't excellent. The problem was, as Lou mentioned earlier, and as we mentioned the preview show, the Raptors are not as good offensively as the Sixers are. They that was proven tonight. The Sixers got to the line more. They shot better from 3. They shot better from the field. The way the Raptors are supposed to win is they win the possessions battle, meaning they get offensive rebounds. During the regular season, the Raptors were one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the league. They were second of offensive rebound percentage tonight. 7 total offensive rebounds, fewer than the Sixers. The Raptors were the best team in the entire league at turning other teams over. Opponents' turnover percentage, number 1 in the entire league, 16%. Tonight, they forced technically 3, but one of the turnovers was Isaiah Joe at the end. So I'm calling it 2 turnovers. I mean, nothing went right. Everything that needed to go right for the Raptors didn't. So maybe that's a negative for the rest of the series. Or, I mean, I kind of think positively, like, hey, listen, it's a 30-point loss or a 20-point loss. It looks terrible, but this is quite literally the worst case scenario for the Raptors. So it can only really go upwards from here.
Credit Doc Rivers. They have Embiid as obviously as a matchup advantage, but he created a matchup advantage through Maxey, because he recognized that our guards, not just Fred, but even Gary for that matter, just does not have the speed to keep up with a guy like Maxey. And because we don't really have any great shot blocking in the middle, Maxey can basically go all the way, and Harden as well can go all the way uncontested, and it did that all game long. So I think that's the trade-off of playing a lot of 6'9" guys who can be in a lot of different places on the floor. You will compromise on quickness, and as great as Siakam and some of these guys are, when an NBA guard who's known for his quickness gets into the paint, there's really not much you can do, and there's even less you can do when you don't have any shot blocking.
How about this, guys? What if I told you before this game even began that Joel Embiid would go 5 for 15 from the floor? 5 for 15. You probably would have thought the Raptors would be walking out with a win in Philadelphia. Not the case, because Joel Embiid did go 5 for 15, and he did finish with 19 points, and he went to the free throw line 11 times. He went to the free throw line 9 times in the first half. The calls for him were incredible, but to give Joel Embiid credit, he's a guy that's been getting to the line all year. I saw Raptors fans all over Twitter kind of, weeping and crying at the fact that Joel Embiid was going to the line so much. And I didn't understand it, because Joel Embiid, I believe, leads the league in free throw attempts per game, right? So
if you're surprised you weren't watching him, like, this is what he does.
Yeah. And the thing with, Philadelphia, why they won this game, or why Toronto lost this game, is because Philadelphia, the last time Toronto played them, they turned the ball over 17 times, and Toronto scored 25 times off those turnovers. And in the first half alone, Philadelphia, I believe, turned the ball over once. They cleaned up their defensive rebounding. They became an offensive rebounding team. Their possessions looked super clean. They were running their sets. Everything that they wanted to do, they accomplished in this game. Toronto, to give them a little bit of credit, they did switch very well in this game. I believe that they switched very well defensively. It's just their point of attack defense, like Zarar mentioned, just did not look as strong as in previous matchups. So you mentioned Fred, Zarar. Do you believe, because when I watch Fred, the mobility kind of worries me a bit. He doesn't look as springy, and he doesn't cover as much ground as he used to prior to this injury that's been hampering him all season. If Fred isn't as mobile as he was, and the Philadelphia 76ers already have a size advantage present when Fred's on the floor, do you look into maybe minimizing his minutes a little bit, or is his shot creating ability, it just doesn't allow you to do that?
Well, I think you have to have Fred on the floor, because he is one of your best 3-point shooters, and 3-point shooting is something we don't have in great abundance. So it doesn't make any sense to not play him, even if he is defensively a little suspect. I think I highlighted a comment here where Snitsky McGee, if I can start this, mentioned this. Do you start Precious over GTJ? And I think this is a pretty fair take, because I think, Sahal, this addresses your point. Because I think if you have more length on the floor, maybe you're able to cover more ground, because Gary Trent Jr. in this game did not look good defensively. I thought he played Harden too close, too far away from the rim. Harden has not proven that he can knock down those 34-footers he used to hit in Houston. So I don't see why you would play Harden so tight, so far away from the rim. You're almost inviting Harden to do his turn, and then where he barrages into the paint. That's just bad defense. And if that's the Gary Trent Jr. that we're going to see in this series defensively, then I sort of agree with this comment. How about you, Kyle? What do you
just in general, like the starting lineup the Raptors went with tonight, they had no answers for Embiid, and like, so fine, he didn't have a crazy night, but a lot of the stuff, or especially early in the game, it's not going to show up in the box score, because it's like Embiid passes to the first guy out of the double, and it gets swung to a wide open street.
With him, right?
Exactly, yeah. So it's like he breaks down the defense entirely, and it all works from there. So even if he's not credited with the assist, he's getting that, like, second pass before the made bucket a ton of the time, because you're right, the chaos starts with him because they have no true matchup for him. I thought Precious did a decent job hanging with Embiid tonight. I think the only thing that really gave Embiid any actual trouble in terms of like a one-on-one matchup was Precious, and that includes everyone on the entire team. So you got to just pair those guys' minutes together. And I think Precious has to be on the floor a lot, and I think Precious has to be on the floor, every time Embiid's on the floor. It's just how it's going to have to be. There's no other answer.
Toronto knows what they have to do to win this series. And if you guys watched in the third quarter when they made that run, it was, that run was sparked from very good half-court defense that turned into transition opportunities for Toronto. That's what it really comes down to for Toronto. When they went on that run in the middle of the third quarter, they did what they've been doing all season long, forcing the shots, getting out in transition, and scoring. And Philadelphia looked lost. They had to call a timeout, and then finally they got back on track. It just helps Toronto in transition, especially, and I made sure I wrote this down as well. It helps in transition versus Philadelphia, particularly when you can get to the rim before Joel Embiid gets into that paint. Because if you notice, when Joel Embiid's running back and he's trying to play that transition defense, and by the way, Joel Embiid at points looked exhausted in this game, and so credit to him for still being that center and that focal point of chaos for Philadelphia offensively. But a lot of times in transition, he wasn't walking, but it was almost like a slow jog. And it's like, you got to get to that paint and score in that paint at will when he's not there. Because a lot of times what was happening was Pascal Siakam was breaking down his man, Tobias Harris, who we've seen Pascal do that all season long. He's breaking down his man. He's breaking down Niang and all these other Philadelphia 76ers. And then he would run into a wall. And that gave me almost PTSD, like reverse PTSD almost, of when teams used to do that to Toronto in 2019 in that championship run, except they're running into Marc Gasol. So it's difficult, but Zarar, as bad as this game looked, 20-point loss, and the Raptors really didn't look like they were in it. I don't think the Raptors are fully out of this. Of course, it does hurt that Scotty Barnes is injured. And Chris, our producer, did post that tweet earlier from Louis Zatzman, I believe it was, our managing editor at Raptors Republic. That the initial X-rays on Scotty Barnes' ankle came back negative, which was good, very good news. Kyle, when you first mentioned before Zarar got in here that it didn't look as bad to you, I was worried because when I saw it in slow motion, I genuinely thought there was a chance Scotty Barnes might have broke his ankle. I saw like a little snap motion that kind of scared me, but
He's young though. He's young. Yeah. Like young guys can get over that. You see, obviously, like it's different, but like when a kid's like 4 years old, they could just fall down a flight of stairs and they'll like stand up and go run around afterwards. It's just like when you're young, you can do whatever. Yeah. When you're young, he's just gonna get away with it. That's just the type of stuff that you get away with when you're young. I don't want to curse anything, so whatever, but I don't think it'll be as serious as initially thought. It just looks really bad in slow motion getting your ankle stepped on, but like it could have been. I'd be concerned if it was like a non-contact knee injury or a non-contact ankle injury. That would be like giving me heart palpitations. This is kind of fine. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to play doctor here, but I think the Raptors have to figure out how to get better defensively. And how to contain dribble penetration without necessarily having a big man in the middle to do that for them. I think that's an unsolved problem right now. I I don't know. Like I might even. I mean, maybe you want to get a little unorthodox here and maybe use one of your guards. Maybe dare I say this, and I don't even want to. Maybe I'll get hate for this, but if Maxi is breaking you down so easily, maybe it's trying to put Svi on him and give him a different look or do something to disrupt him if this is going to be a bit of a trend. And the
We can't
Siakam
be
point,
this
I think
down
that's a good
bad
point,
after
Kyle,
game
because
one.
it's because I was.
We can't be in
Huh?
Svi mode after game one.
We
I
can't
got
be
to
this
put a
bad.
pause on the Svi
We
mode
can't be
stuff.
this bad. Hey, I'm with you though on Siakam. That I was kind of worried too that he might have another DeMar DeRozan game, right? And he didn't. He had a pretty decent game. Slow first half. And Sahal, when you were saying that Siakam drives and like there's a wall there, I think he's too good. I think he can negotiate that wall fairly easily because he has a bit of a floater. He has a stretch game where he can finish. So I don't think it's the same that you can just throw him a wall and then that's the end of Siakam. He has enough talent in him to overcome that sort of second layer of defense after he drives.
If I'll say I'm betting on the Raptors being able to force the Sixers into more turnovers. And tonight is just a weird aberration. I think things will turn around eventually. This is just like it's impossible to only force 2 turnovers in a game. It's unheard of. I don't think this is something you can really base the rest of the series on. But while we're talking betting, Zarar.
Well, so you guys can do the promos or whatever. I'm not in the mood for promos right now. I'm kind of like
in the mood for promos.
I mean, I know we have
teeing you up.
That,
I served you a fastball right over the plate.
Can we? A lot of people want to talk about the refs for some reason. I mean, do you guys want to spend 1 minute talking about the refs and just slander the hell out of them?
Yeah. Do you guys want me to start?
Okay, let me make it 20 seconds. You get 20 seconds. It's Sahal, you get 20 seconds. I don't understand the first Fred foul. What are you trying to prove? What is the point of calling that foul? It's extremely touchy. The only reason you would call that foul is if you are sending an indication to the players that, hey guys, the rest of the game is going to be ticky-tack, so watch yourself. Yeah, that's the only reason you would call that. But guess what? But the rest of the game was not ticky-tacky. You let all kinds of contact go one way. So why are you calling that foul and not be consistent? As every NBA coach or player that I've ever seen speak about the refs always ask for one thing: consistency. And when consistency isn't there, people get upset. And tonight, I didn't see great consistency in their play calling. That's my take on the refs.
I want to preface what I'm about to say by essentially, 76ers win this game with a great reffing game and with a bad reffing game, right? So that's the first thing I want to say, because I'm starting to see, Kyle, this is getting a bit weird, and we don't get this a lot, but I'm looking at the live comments, and we're getting a lot of Philadelphia 76ers fans kind of trudging through here, just battling Raptors fans in the comments. But that's okay. That's fine. I mean, you guys are here.
60 seconds are up, Sahal. Get into the ref slander.
I got 15 seconds. Do your victory lap. It's great, right? I was going to mention that exact play, Zarar, because when it happened, I think that's what it was. I think it was the referees going, this is how we're going to referee this series, the entire 7, 6, 5 games, however long it is. This never happens. The game starts, and seconds later, Fred is called for, and Fred just started laughing at the referee. I didn't understand it. There was weird non-flagrant calls that weren't called in this game, which was very strange as well. You could have argued that Pascal maybe deserved 15, 20 free throws in this game, honestly. He didn't get that. So it is what it is. Referees, it's tough. Like, I hate doing this after the Raptors lose by 20, but it's difficult. I think if you're going to call it tic-tac fouls, you should do it both ways. It's really that simple, because 34 free throws for Philly is insane.
Look, basketball is a contact sport, and what happened last year in the playoffs is they stopped calling those little tickets. Remember last year in the regular season, the little Trae Young jumping backwards into a defender, that was like taking over the NBA, and they stopped calling that in the playoffs. And it was such a big success for the product that the league in the meetings in the summer decided, hey, going into this upcoming year, we want the refs to call the regular season like you were calling the playoffs, because the product's way better. People stopped foul baiting. It looked a lot better. So I was assuming it'd be the same type of thing going into the playoffs this year. Is a stricter whistle. It wasn't. I think it probably should be. I think it kind of was in other games. And I think it will kind of balance itself out. But as of right now, you got two guys on the 76ers who are great at foul baiting, and they're getting rewarded for it. So we'll have to see what goes on.
Embiid, if this continues, Embiid's gonna kill someone in game 2. Like this is he took out Kem Birch. He took out Kem Birch early. And again, this was inadvertent. I'm not saying that this was deliberate by any stretch of the imagination.
He's
but
a dirty
he
player.
stepped on
I think
Scotty
he fouled
Barnes.
Scotty on purpose. Okay.
Yeah,
I can't get in on that.
He stepped on Scotty Barnes.
That left
He
leg.
hit past
That left leg moved a little too unnaturally for me.
It's unfortunate. It really is. And I don't think
it was not a normal basketball motion.
We said we wouldn't play doctor at all. But I mean, the overwhelming opinions are, and I'm sure you can agree with this as well, is that we're probably not going to see Scotty in game 2. We're probably not going to see Scotty in game 2. And it's unfortunate for Toronto because he was one of the best players on the court.
I thought he was their best player. I thought he was their best player for the time he was playing.
Side note, right before we get into Taxman, Kyle, Danny Green. I don't know why, but I just feel like there's going to be a game where he just loses it on us. And I felt like it would be game 1. It wasn't. Do you think that maybe Danny's just holding back a little bit, or is he just not that good at basketball anymore?
Man, I watched that 2019 run and like the amount of shots that he missed that
he loves us.
Wide open shots. I don't see anything different. I mean, this is the Danny Green's game. He should be a 15-minute a game player at this point, and he'll be forced into way more minutes. Green, which is good for us. I think
Kyle, you were mentioning Scotty. You mentioned Scotty a minute ago about how great he was. Did you notice that he had Danny Green in the post in the first 2-3 possessions of the game, and he easily backed him down? And
they should have gone to that more.
By the way, Nurse also went to OG in the post to start the game. Kudos to him. Not great results, but he tried that, and he also went to Thad in the post.
Yeah,
at least twice in the first quarter.
But the problem with posting up Harden is that Harden's good as a post defender.
Actually, whatever it is, maybe he is. I mean, I don't know. But
he's
been
pretty bad in the second half. He's been pretty bad in the second half of the season, and then you add this 6 for 17 showing, and
it's not about Harden. The point I'm trying to make is they did try to go into the post. Some success with no success with OG. Let's face it. Moderate success with Thad on the passing, and some success with Scotty as well. I would still like to see the Raptors take Scotty and OG and use them on the block more, because I think OG can take on Harris quite easily, or anybody else, in his wing area, and Scotty can pretty much take up everybody except Embiid. So I think that is something the Raptors will look more to do in game 2, I hope.
Yeah, I was tearing my hair out watching Scotty have Tyrese Maxey in transition, like in cross matches, and him not getting the ball early in possessions. It's like you have to take advantage of, like, Maxey is one of the skinniest NBA players in recent memory, like slightest of frame in recent memory, and you got a dude who's like 5 inches taller than him, 50 pounds heavier than him. I don't care how old he is. I don't care that he doesn't have like the same presence in the locker room as some guys. You got to take advantage of it. It's just stupid not to. So I'm very frustrated, and I have been, frankly, we've all been frustrated about this all year.
It's gonna suck for all the people who didn't watch this game. The first thing you do when you don't watch a Raptors game, or really any basketball game, you look at the box score, and people are gonna see 5 for 15 Joel Embiid, 6 for 17 James Harden, and they're gonna go, "Oh, how did the Raptors not win this game?" Until they keep looking, and then they realize that Tyrese Maxey went 14 for 21 in this game, and the Philadelphia 76ers, like I said before, shot 34 free throws. I don't believe, even if Scotty is out for however long, I do not believe that the Raptors are out of the series. I don't believe that Philadelphia has this massive, massive advantage, like most Philadelphia fans all over Twitter think right now. Gary shot terribly. Fred, we haven't really seen a supernova game from him in quite a while. And the Raptors look bad defensively. They didn't do anything that they normally do very well. If anything, it's almost like Philadelphia. You guys know Kirby in Super Smash Bros. It's like Philadelphia just absorbed everything that the Raptors do well and just spat it right back out at them. So I mean, it is what it is. I'm okay with it. Really quick, Zora, I know you want to get an opinion in. let me just quickly do Taxman because we're 30 minutes in and this is the fastest 30 minutes ever. And you don't like to be part of our promos, so you can X yourself out for now. All right, Taxman, Kyle, who is your Taxman? Because I don't think we're going to go with the Raptor. It's a 20-point loss.
No,
What?
we have to go with the Raptor. There was no
We have to go
pain.
with the Raptor.
I'm not going with Maxi. It would hurt me too much.
Maxi on a Raptor show? Come on, man. Traitor. This is a Tottenham fan, man. Tottenham fans are like this.
I think.
Hey, you guys lost today.
I think we should go Scotty. I think, to me, he was about to get a triple double in his first ever playoff game, and he he was 2 assists short of a triple double in his first ever playoff game. I mean, it would have been a legendary moment, and kind of robbed of it. Apparently on purpose, although I don't necessarily agree with that, but whatever. He'll be back probably by the end of this series. I don't look. I'm not a doctor, as you guys know, but I just don't think it's that serious. And the X-ray is not broken, so there we go.
It's tough because Zarar, this series is, I believe there's a game every other day. So obviously Saturday night, and then I believe there's Monday night, Wednesday night, I think it is, or is it Thursday night? And then there's Saturday night again. So a sprained ankle, even if that's what it is super tough to come back from. But we'll give the Taxman to Scott, big old Scott, 15, 10, and 8 on only 6 shots. He only made 4 shots. 4 for 6, went to the free throw line quite a bit, was battling. And I think that's the biggest thing with Scotty is that his aggressiveness, he didn't care if Embiid was in there. Remember Zarar, I mentioned how Pascal was running into that wall? Scotty just did not care that Embiid was that wall. He was going straight at him, play make really well. This shot from Precious was great. I did not expect that to go in, but I mean, it is what it is. Precious has been hitting that. It's Scotty. Scotty's our Taxman. So you guys see at the top of our screen, you can call VJ Verma at 416-243-2912. Guys, tax season is coming to a close, guys. We're almost there. If you haven't filed your taxes yet, we're in the playoffs now, guys. I was telling you this a couple months ago. So please visit canamtax.com or call VJ Verma at the number listed above. Zarar, are you okay with our Taxman of the night? Are you co-signing it?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with Scotty. So here's what are we done with this? Are we done with it? Okay.
I didn't want to mention.
So here's what I kind of wanted to also. Oh, go ahead, Kyle.
No, I just wanted to mention. I think on Scotty real quick. I think one of the biggest things I'm going to take from this year, 5-10 years down the road, is remember that 2022 season where you'd look at a box score every game and Scotty would be 8 for 10 and 20 points and almost a triple double, and then you'd look down and Gary took 25 shots and hit 3 of them. This is such a classic. They really do not get him involved as he should be, and it's heartbreaking. This dude is the future of the franchise. He was our Taxman. He had the best game. They got to get this person more involved in the offense. He's a terrific player. It's just that simple. I don't know what else is going on. I don't know what else needs to happen for him to earn more respect.
So this is interesting. Do we need to double and trap more?
They killed us.
Very interesting because it sounds like it's a good idea. Because why would you not want to trap to put pressure on the Philly offense, which was so great? I'm not sure we have the personnel to trap in a long series, especially if Scotty is injured and Trent is playing the way we are. I mean, I would love to see. I think I would like to see some traps used to throw off Philly a little bit more. For example, when they were going off in that first quarter, to kind of stop that run at the 7-point mark or the 8-point mark, instead of letting it go all the way to 16. At maybe 8, you throw a trap in, just to throw them off and slow them down so they do a double take on what to do. I think you can use traps in those senses to kind of slow down runs. But as an overall strategy to trap 10, 12 times a game, I don't know. What do you guys think?
You're in the metaverse for a sec. I think this Con Kim is correct. They shot 70% out of doubles. They were just, I think they killed the double team really early in the game.
Okay, there you go.
And we had to go away from it. It just doesn't you can say, I think that maybe there's an emotional thing where if someone gets a wide open basket, it's well, on to the next possession. But when you see Embiid absolutely destroy someone on a 10-second back down and put the ball through, it's we got to double him. But if you really go through all the possessions that the doubles were brought on, it didn't look good. And I think when you could chart all of that. Maybe that's a good article, even like what happened when the Raptors doubled Embiid. Look at every single possession. Let me just say, like, my initial impression would be nothing good happened.
I'm actually going to disagree. I'm going to say, I was talking to a few of my friends in the first half, and I said that on the doubles that weren't working, I think it's a situation where you don't just double for the sake of doubling unless Embiid is in the low post. You have to find almost advantageous positions on the court to trap Embiid. If you guys remember, I believe it was the fourth quarter, and it was close to the baseline corner, and Embiid got doubled, and he had to call a timeout. And he yelled at the referee, I was calling timeout. And he called that timeout because he was at a position in the court where he had two windows. I tweeted this as well. He had two windows, and they both were sealed by Pascal Siakam and Chris Boucher. Another thing is, double teaming is not just, it's almost a skill. Like, you can't just double team. Like, you have to understand what angles to shut off. I was watching Chris Boucher on some of these double teams, and I didn't understand what he was doing. Like, I was completely confused. He did have double teams that looked very good.
He's not doubling. He's sagging. Like, he's cheating off his man, which is
exactly.
Mike Kamina just had a comment there. I don't know if you can highlight it again. I think he's bang on. It's not that we are aggressively doubling. It's like we are slightly cheating. And Philly was very quick in moving the ball on the perimeter and making us pay for those little. Just,
if anything, guys,
spend an extra second paying attention to somebody you're not supposed to pay attention to.
It's just a way to it's just a way to shrink the floor. You take like another step towards the guy. You get yourself in a position where if he turns to your direction, you're able to dig. All of that's good. The problem is that like half the time, and it happens to Siakam, I think, as you mentioned, Zarar, in the first half, where it's like they're Embiid hardened high pick and roll, and Siakam's just like standing in space with his arms out. Not close enough to dig on, not close enough to like come tag a roller, and then like the ball whizzes right by his face because he's not guarding the guy in the corner, and there's an open three. So it's like I just like the doubling is one thing, but yeah, you guys are completely right. Like some of these dudes are just standing in space and they're not digging, they're not doubling, they're just doing nothing.
Can I clarify something? So the thing with double teams is that obviously when you have two guys on one, right? You're not the rest of the other three guys, they're not just guarding their men. Like, this is why I said double teaming is a skill. If you've played basketball and you've played a very, very good player that needs to be double teamed, you don't guard your man when two of your teammates are double teaming a guy. You're literally playing in space. So I understand when people are saying you're almost playing in between two guys. So if there's two guys, you're playing in between them just in case the ball gets to either. So I understand why people are saying, it looks like they're sagging, or it looks like the Raptors aren't, running as crisp traps or double teams as they were before. Because Zarar is right. It's almost like you're playing in space, and it's not like a full out double unless it has to be, right? Unless Embiid's 8 feet away from the rim. You have to play in space, and I think Fred VanVleet is one of the best in the NBA at that, and he did a good job of that tonight. Defensively, point of attack, I didn't like what I saw from Fred, but on the double teams where he had to play in between two men, he is one of the best at closing out. It's just, he was closing out on Tyrese Maxey, who was just hitting everything today. So I don't think this is a game where you go, okay, let's just revolutionize our entire game plan when it comes to Embiid or whatever, because the fact of the matter is, guys, Embiid went 5 for 15 and James Harden went 6 for 17. So the Raptors were doing something right. I understand that we were saying all the chaos began with Embiid, but if both of those guys are going 11 for, let me do the quick math, 11 for 32, from the field, you're doing something right for the two stars. It's just, it just has to be more crisp. I think that's all it really comes down to. And then, like, obviously you see in the tweet beside us from Oren Weisfeld, Fred says, we just weren't ourselves in a lot of areas. We weren't disruptive. He says the Sixers won the physicality battle. Disruptive essentially means forcing turnovers, no, guys?
Yeah, something like that. So something close to that. I think even just like getting in passing lanes, tipping balls and stuff, they just weren't doing it. So who knows?
I mean, who have we not? I think we talked about pretty much everything about this game already now. I don't know. I think it's a Phil Jackson used to say this, that game one, Phil Jackson had a great quote. A series does not start until a home team loses a game. So nothing has happened yet. They've held serve. The Raptors played poorly for the most part, and they got blown out. But it's a blowout, but it doesn't really feel like a bad blowout. It feels like a sort of an acceptable blowout which is maybe inflated because we had a very poor start. If you take the first quarter out of it, and I know that's a weird thing to say, but after the first quarter, this is a pretty close game. It's not even that bad of a game.
You can definitely take positives out of this game, right?
That's my favorite type of sports analysis. Is like when you take out the bad stuff, it's actually all right. Just like, but I get what you're saying though. I get what you're saying though. It started off horrible. It started off horrible, but it's not like the rest of the game was like unwatchable. They hung around for a long time. And listen, like this is a 7-game series. I predicted Raps in 7. Zarar has changed his prediction 3 times. We'll say his final one was Philly in 7. So like, look, the Sixers were going to win 3 of those games in my prediction and in Zarar's prediction anyway. Like this is bound to happen. They're going to win games. No one said Raps in 4. Like I'm not out here. I'm not panicking at all. So we'll see in game 2.
Hey Sahal, before you wrap it up, let's
do
score bet. Everybody, do score bet.
Yeah, this show, so obviously we've been with Can-Am Tax the entire season. They've been supporting us. This show is now also supported and brought to you by the Score Bet. And you are a flat-out liar if you haven't seen the Score Bet ad somewhere on your phone, whether it be Instagram, Twitter. It's been all over my phone. I don't know. Now that I said it and my iPhone probably heard me, it's going to be all over my phone even more. So we want to obviously thank the Score Bet for bringing this show to you guys. The link is in the description. It is Ramadan for me, and I am in a very holy place and in a very spiritual place. So I will not go too far in promoting, a source of gambling. But what I will say is the Score Bet is probably your best option if you were to gamble. I think Zarar would agree with that as well. I think we'll wrap it up, Zarar. I don't know if you guys, Kyle, if you guys need to say any last words, but I think we covered everything in this game. Of course, this was the wrap up, your official Raptors Republic post-game live show brought to you by myself, Sahal Abdi, Kyle Brickman of Raptors Republic, and Zarar of Raptors Republic. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much to Chris Howson-Jan, our producer, for producing this show. And we will see you guys Monday night. It should be fun. Game 2. None of us think the Raptors are out of it. And I think we can all agree on that much. Take care, stay safe, and Kyle, Raptors by 20 in game 2, okay? All right.